Good morning and welcome to Dateline New Haven.
Should women cops shave their head?
I'm your host, Paul Bass, inviting you to look behind the headlines on the stories that make the Elm City tick. Nothing ticks better than Pundit Friday. I have it almost at the bottom, but
No. Let him turn hers down.
okay.
Somebody just remind him.
Well, nothing ticks better than Pundit Friday, which is set to begin here in the WNHH studio. Once we get all the levels straight, Norma, can you hear now? Or?
It's too loud, mine.
Okay, Norma's is loud. We got the best pundits in the radio universe and the news universe here, like the dairy-free goddess of our grassroots radio operation, the belle of our ball, the managing editor of the Inner City News and WNHH's Love Babs, Love Talk. Babs Rawls Ivy. They were really running down, cutting the cord today. She and Harry Droz were on it today. That was awesome. We got the Queen of Quippery and Quintessence of Compassion, La Voz Hispana publisher Norma Rodriguez Reyes.
¿Qué pasa?
We got the flyest news hunter-gatherer this side of Fleet Street, leader of the Literati, Star New Haven independent reporter Markeisha Ricks.
Happy Friday, people.
We got Heavy D Donald Trump devotee, Harry Droz, the bravest man in New Haven. I think that's about it. Oh, wait, we got one other person. We got the DJ of Deliverance, the filial force of fortuitous fomentation, the ouster of obstinance and ostentation, the savior of civility, hurricane of heavenly homily, conqueror of cannabis commerce, the bright light in the New Haven night, the straight shooter from Bermuda, the mystical and metaphorical man on the money, tackler of tempestuousness and titan of temperance, Joe Ugly of the Joe Ugly Show in the morning. Good morning, everyone. How you doing?
Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning.
Well,
TGIF.
There were a lot of interesting news stories this week, but I thought there was one that really rose above the others, especially the interesting comments all our readers had. And, you know, I know you folks are going to have amazingly interesting things to say about it. I've heard some of what Markeisha has to say, and I was very interested in that.
She's shaving her head.
I was wondering if we could start with doing a round-robin reading what some of the commenters in the New Haven Independent this week said about the story about Jason Bandy, Bad Boy Bandy. He's a young cop who almost got fired years ago when he called in sick, but he wasn't sick. He went to a bar, and then he got sick, drunk, peed on the floor, lied about it, got arrested, somehow kept his job. Now, years later, he has an interesting fight with his police chiefs and assistant chiefs. Pretty much half or more of the department likes to wear tattoos, including some of the people in charge. They like to wear them all over their body. Jason Bandy has some pretty aggressive ones all over his neck and his face. So the police chief said you got to cover those up.
Even his face?
The union says you have no policy on this. They say we have general policies of appropriateness, and we think that falls under it. But in the end, he agreed to wear makeup. But they still have to figure out some other details because he says he's being discriminated against for being a man.
Hmm?
So anyway, we had some. I think there's some
Say what
great.
now?
I think there's some great issues here, and I think if we could start reading what some of the commenters wrote, and then talk about Marcus Sells, I was hoping we could do that. Norma, why don't you tell us what Challenge wrote?
Okay. But, Paul, we need to mention that these tattoos were placed after he got the job, not
Yes.
before.
Oh,
Okay.
very interesting.
He wasn't hired with this art.
Right.
One of them was Latin for I came, I saw, I conquered.
Okay. Yes, let's not cheapen the word hero. I haven't read anything about heroic work performed by Bandy. As a matter of fact, I haven't heard anything from the community. What I heard is that within 1 year on the job, he violated 10 department policies, disgraced the uniform, was terminated, and able to get his job back. It's no wonder he has no respect for authority and comes to work looking like a bearded thug. I also heard part of his art is a Greek inscription. I came, I saw, I conquered. Should the city lower its standards of professionalism simply because the department is losing cops? Many feel the city is over-policed. I suspect Bandy will retain his job as he did following his arrest at the bar and for a domestic violence incident with his mother. My goodness. He will do so because there's no demand for integrity and accountability until the next act of insolence.
Okay, Babs, what did Lifer and what did Nash Jeter have to say? And by the way, there is at the beginning we're all on one side, but then it shifts.
I didn't realize what all this ruckus was about until seeing the photo. Now I understand. He looks scary. Call me old-fashioned, but when I see tats like that, I think sociopath. Has this dude had proper psychiatric screening and criminal background check?
Nash Streeter used to come in a lot, and she doesn't very often
Oh.
now, but she weighed in. Babs, what did she say?
I wouldn't want to meet up with this guy if I were alone on a dark street. FYI, it's not them that do you in. And needed help. He looks like a gangbanger. Unfortunately, and do you know many gangbangers? Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of people who think of the police as the beatdown posse. He looks like Exhibit A.
Well, Exhibit A for average taxpayer. Markeisha Ricks, what did average taxpayer have to write?
Bandy's egotism, selfishness, and anti-authoritarian streak are taking up how many hours of other people's time? Common sense says society doesn't want cops to look like gang members.
But then 3/5 weighed in, channeling Babs.
What does a gang member and a gangbanger look like?
Joe,
Also depends on which gangs.
true.
There's some white collar gangs out there. Let's be clear.
The Republic thugs.
And there was the beatdown posse in New Haven years ago.
The
White cops
Republicans.
who went to street corners and just jumped
Republicans.
out of a van and beat up all the people hanging out. Joe, what did EBW 1957 say?
While I may not personally have all like tattoos, if this local hero, wants them, I have no issues. People who do the fairly thankless work these brave people do should have some liberties.
All right, Joe, I could tell you love that comment. Well, what is somewhere in New Haven right back to that?
I'm not reading an EBW 1957 again.
Why you feel you have to agree with the words?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can't.
Maybe let's
express
see how you feel
You're
about
acting.
somewhere
This
in
is
New
voice
Haven.
acting.
Okay, let me do voice acting.
Somewhere in New Haven, Joe Ugly. What did somewhere in New Haven write?
I was raised to know a house without rules is no house at all. Full body tattoos are a bit much for any public official. If wasn't already employed, I'm certain he would have a hard time getting employed. Just look like trouble. What does trouble look like? My opinion, not appropriate, period.
All right, let's skip the next page and get another side. Norma, would you mind going to Alex? What Alex had to say?
Alex, yes. Okay. It seems like they have it out for this guy because he was fired once before and then reinstated. I care a lot more about whether he's a good cop and people trust him than whether he has tattoos anywhere on his body. If he does a good job and has earned people's trust, the tattoo isn't a problem. If he doesn't do a good job, though, or isn't trusted, that tattoo is menacing. Tough call. I wish the police commissioner took complaints of brutality this seriously.
Babs, Rob Tam, 18, had kind of an interesting take there. What did Rob Tam say?
He has tattoos. It's not a matter of if you guys like tattoos. It's about his constitutional rights. You guys have no backbone. I have tattoos on my hand. I'm a firefighter. You gonna stay in a burning building and wait for a non-tattooed member to save you? If it's just a loving on appearance, that's fine. You can't fire people unfairly.
All right, and what did Patricia Kane say back?
Bandy knew what he was doing when he put his tattoos up front on the sides of his neck and under his chin. He knew it was like waving a red flag in front of a bull. He knew the department was okay with concealed tattoos, but that the facial area was out of acceptable bounds. Whether the rule he was charged with violating was too vague to be enforceable is a question the NHPD can easily remedy. Why this guy is even a cop is a good question, considering his own acting out in the past and in this instance. He looks like he identifies more with, quote, outlaws or rebels than with being an authority figure. Whatever the outcome of this particular issue, I predict he'll be back on some other charge. P.S. Not everyone who wears a uniform is a, quote, hero. Let's not cheapen the words.
Well, Joe Ugly, public schooled, and that's spelled with K's, Publibliskskooled. Weighed in. Tell me about this.
The 4004 tat he has is reference to 4004 BC, the year New Earth. Christian Bible believers, I think that's what it's supposed to be, says the earth was created. I'm more worried that the New Haven Police Department actually hired someone who believed this is to be true and has the power to make arrests.
That's interesting. Now, one of the comments that got a lot of attention inside the police department was from John Vallecca. He used to be the acting chief. He was the assistant chief. He's retired. And he's very friendly with the current acting chief, Tony Reyes, who moved to terminate this officer. John Valletta publicly disagrees with his friend and mentee, Tony Reyes, and was willing to say it here in the comments. Norma, what did John Valletta write?
Oh, my goodness. John Valletta. Most people around the New Haven Police Department know that Chief Reyes and I are very good friends, and we have been for over 15 years. We're also very honest with each other and have never shied away from a good debate when our opinions differ. On this issue, we agree on some things and disagree on others. We do agree that Bandy's face and neck tattoos look very unprofessional and were a poor decision given the fact that he is a police officer. I have tattooed myself, but Bandy's went too far. Our disagreement lies with the professional ramifications Bandy should endure. 1. I don't believe that an officer worthy of his termination.
You don't believe that he doesn't believe this was an offense worthy of his termination.
Oh, I don't believe this is an offense worthy of his termination. During Bandy's first offense, I was the assistant chief, and I agree with then Chief Frank Lemon that Bandy should be fired for his actions. This incident does not raise to the same level of the first. Discipline needs to be fair and consistent. He was fired and then returned to work. That's the system. It's driven by past practices and its needs to be respected. Although tangential, the incidents are separated and should remain that way. So who wants to read number 2?
Number 2, Babs. This continues with John Valletta.
He wrote a magnus opus.
Police officers having tattoos has been a topic of discussion at the executive levels of policing for over a decade. If it was a concern at the New Haven Police Department, a policy should have been drafted and implemented. More specifically, in 2009, then Chief Jim Lewis proposed the idea of such a tattoo policy, but the idea was squashed by the Corp Counsel's office. All employees have the right to know exactly what the rules are and the manner in which they are applied. Bandy may be the first to have face tattoos, but he is not the first to have neck and or hand tattoos. Again, discipline needs to be fair. The lack of a tattoo policy signals to the workforce that the issue of visible tattoos is insignificant to the executive command. Bandy's tattooing is extreme, but a strong policy could have guarded against that type of action.
You want to keep going? He has number 3.
3. Bandy's face tattoos was not his first, but his last. So where was the supervisory intervention along the way? The sleeves, hands, and neck tattoos didn't merit supervisory intervention. The first 2 face tattoos didn't merit supervisory intervention. It was only the third face tattoo that got the attention of command. So 2 face tattoos is okay, but 3 you're going to get fired. The lack of supervisory intervention gave tacit approval for Bandy's actions. If nobody says anything about the tattoos, they must be okay with it, right?
Marquise, do you want to bring it home by taking Valletta's last point and leaving out the swear word that comes near the end?
Why not? We can't swear?
It's
No,
FM. Yeah.
Now, if this were just the internet. Lastly, the NHBD has had a difficult year, and we all know why. So there is no need to revisit all of the challenges these cops have endured. Did it really need to go to an all-out BOPC hearing? Couldn't this have been worked out behind closed doors without a clenched fist on both sides of the negotiations? This seems to have been further damage to the officers' morale that just wasn't worth it. Fight the fights that need fighting, not all of them. Bandy doesn't lose his right for free expression just because he's a cop, but I hope he makes better decisions in the future. Just because you can do something doesn't always mean that you should. And quite frankly, the tattoos he has look like SHIT on a cop. It's simply too much. However, that doesn't mean he should lose his job.
It does mean you're listening to Pundit Friday on WNHH 103.5 FM live, Steve New Haven Independent Org. We're
Is John
talking about
Valletta
this.
busy? Does he want to be police of chief? Like chief of police? Like
would've
we
taken it.
have an opening.
He's applied for some. Yeah,
We have an
Has
opening.
he applied?
in other departments.
That actually sounded reasonable.
Yes, it did.
I felt like he laid out with very good
points.
good points.
Mhm.
And I'm someone with visible tattoos who has enough maturity to know that me getting face tattoos would be an immediate grounds for termination, and I wouldn't have anybody who's going to argue on my behalf to say you made a dumb decision, person that I give a gun to every day, to go police.
That's the key
But
point.
but I'm gonna trust you to be a police officer. But like if we're looking at rules and regulations and policies and stuff, he's right. He's right. They could have implemented a policy
He's absolutely
and
right.
not assume
wait,
that
they
people
did-
know better
but
than
they
to
had
not
set-
know that you
Yeah.
shouldn't tattoo your face.
Well, part of the argument was, and this
and
gets
the military has these kinds of rules.
this gets
as
in the
well.
weeds where they thought he wasn't agreeing to cover him with makeup during the day when he patrols. It turns out he is agreeing to cover with makeup, but then they had arguments about should he drop this in return for them dropping the termination. Should he drop his complaint that he's being his civil rights are violated because he's a white male or whatever the crap is. But anyway, so the big issue is, do you think cops should be wearing these tattoos? And I think there are two separate issues, which is
I agree. I think
First
there's
Amendment.
two separate
First
issues.
Amendment is not absolute. You can't You can't have the swastika and expect them to go patrol.
Police,
but where do you
exactly.
draw the line? Like some people, I agree with the commenters say he looks like the beat down posse, but that's hard to make a.
But the beat down
policy
posse
about-
didn't have tattoos.
They
So
didn't?
Yeah,
No.
they look like regular
No.
people.
they was
didn't
like
they?
regular
Exactly.
people. So that's number
Exactly.
one.
I thought they
Number
looked
two.
like soldiers.
But
But soldiers don't necessarily
No.
have tattoos, and
Yeah.
quite frankly, our U.S. military has lots of rules about
That's right.
tattoos.
yeah.
But here's my issue. My issue stands as the fact that it came up after. That shows that someone has bad judgment, terrible judgment at best. So then
Or
become
he's being deliberate, like he's
even if
flaunting
he's even
the
if he's being
rules.
deliberate, it's bad judgment on being deliberate.
Absolutely.
And what that seeing that judgment calls is what police officers have to make consistently. He have to make a decision based on what is in front of him. If he can look at himself in the mirror and realize he's making such a bad judgment call, okay, deliberate or not, it just speaks of what kind of a call he will make in a tight situation.
Well, see,
Well,
I have,
I'm
I have
questioning
a whole,
that.
I have a whole different take on this because
Okay.
number one, I don't appreciate them dragging up his history. If he was fired and he was reinstated, then
That's it.
That's it. You can't bring that back.
Right.
He can't be dragged for that because they made the call to bring him back and hire
Right.
him. So he's it.
And that was a
The
bad
second
call.
part is,
But were
a
the
tat-
tattoos when he came back?
but
or
it doesn't
in
matter.
between?
The tattoos
No, it does.
for me, does not make or break you as a good cop. That a good cop is a good cop whether they wear a tattoo or not.
Exactly.
I think
but
we have to. I think his civil rights are being violated in the sense that the tattoos in and of themselves are not the problem. If we believe he's not a good cop, that's one thing. But the tattoos don't make you or break you, right?
But they do worry
But
about
they
the
do,
image. They
because-
wanna
Listen,
have
I'm
image.
not
Yes, it
worried
does.
about. I'm
Yes,
not
it
worried
does,
about
Bab.
people who
And
wear
here's why I say
tattoos.
so.
I'm worried about bad. There are bad cops all over the place who don't have one tattoo on their body.
that is so true. But
I'm worried about that. It's the content of character that I am most concerned about.
I understand,
Not so much the window dressing,
But-
because that's just window dressing.
it may just be window dressing, but it depends on who's dressing the window. Now,
I don't care. I'm a black woman. I'm judged all the time.
So what? Like
it was
Paul raised a good
unacceptable.
point.
It was unacceptable for black women to show up at work with afros and natural hair. There was whole policies. New York just said you cannot discriminate against black people for the way that they wear their hair.
Right, I understand that,
Just
but
in the last
but this
month.
is but hold on. We're talking about
Really?
no, yes,
Because
but hold
they
on,
felt like
Babs, we're
braids
talking
and
about.
dreadlocks was gang-related kind of hairstyle.
But let's just look. In fact,
Wait a
you know,
second.
Paul.
Babe?
Hold on, Paul. Just 1 second, if you don't mind.
Please let
Paul
Joe
raised
Ugly
a-
talk so he can get it
Paul
out.
kind of raised a point. What if someone was running around with a swastika on their forehead?
That's their body.
Yeah,
Should that
but
be a cop?
Should that be a cop?
Should the
I
New
don't-
should the New
I don't-
Haven
I don't-
police be
I don't-
sending
I
out
What if
cops
they're
with
walking around with a
swastikas?
noose on
that's-
their forehead?
Listen, that's not what we're talking about.
No, but no, it's about judgment.
We have to stand on the stuff that we're talking about. Does he have a swastika on his head?
No, you don't.
Okay,
I-
so then
I
that's a
don't know
whole
that.
different
But
conversation.
a lot of people felt
But-
he had a look like a white
Does
nationalist.
he have white nationalist tattoos?
Well, he has violent tattoos. I conquered. You know, that was like.
How is that violent? We use that
Yeah, that's right.
We use that language in business every single day.
I came, I saw, I conquered.
That is
Okay.
business language.
I think
Yes,
your
it
point's
is.
well taken, Babs.
Yes,
I
it
think
is.
Joe and I do feel we do have to talk about, is there a limit to free expression? Should cops be allowed to wear swastika tattoos on their face on the job?
but we're not talking
No,
about
I'm asking though. What do you
swastikas.
think? What do you think? Is there a limit to what you can put on?
Listen,
You're saying this guy's
but
kosher,
we're
but what
not-
about where does
but
it end?
I'm not saying that. Until we meet up with someone who actually has a swastika, that has no bearing in this conversation.
Right, to this case it doesn't, but it has all
Or-
the bearing to this conversation because it's saying we should have a policy.
Until we
What
get
should
to
the policy? But they're saying
But
let's have
again,
the policy
like
in
that,
advance.
You can
that's something you can
absolutely
manage
say,
with policy.
then
You can
there's-
manage with policy. So, like Valeka said, you can say
No
no,
swastikas.
just like there's a no beard policy, even though that's changing in the police department. Like, you can change the policy and say no face tattoos. This is the only guy that
So
can
that's
have
what
a
I'm
face
asking. I'm
tattoo.
saying coming here,
I don't
what's
care what it is. I don't care if it's Scooby-Doo or a swastika.
so
You can't
what's
have
the-
one on your
what
face.
should
I
the
think-
policy be though, Norma? Go.
You know, I think what happened, the turmoil that's been happening in the police department has been the reason why this police officer has been allowed to get away with this. Because there was no chief that wanted to take this on. So they just allowed it. The other thing is, I think this kid really needs psychological something. They do when they hire police officers, many of ours, even though they pass the written test, they're not accepted because they do psychological testing. All this tattooed on this, he's really crying for help. And he needs help based on his history. So you know what? The city better think very well before this guy really does what this kind of behavior.
I don't. Getting tattoos in and of itself is not the problem. He doesn't have white nationalist tattoos on, so we can't argue that point. He doesn't have a swastika on. He has different kinds of tattoos. So we either have a tattoo policy or we don't. And we can absolutely say you can have tattoos, but you can't have tattoos that are of racist nature. And we know what those are. We know
Do we?
swastikas are. We know. We
What is
know
Harry?
swastikas are certain things.
Harry,
Oh.
tell us why you don't have tattoos on your face.
Oh my God, Babs is so right. And I don't understand why nobody's listening. Stop. You're trying to bring in situations that don't exist. You have to deal with what's in front of you. Now, it's like Markeisha said. You could always say this is a new regulation, new whatever. You can't have tattoos, period. You don't even have to say swastikas.
Yep. You can say no tattoos. We don't accept if you have tattoos. we're
Okay,
not
but
gonna take you.
everyone is agreeing with Babs that there should be clear rules. But I don't think you wait till after the fact to set the clear rules. Everyone's saying say
You
in
don't,
advance.
and this is
he was saying this. His lawyer was saying this. Tell us what the rules are. So the question I'm asking you is, what should the rules be? Should we say no tattoos on the face? And
I honestly think. See, tattoos are not the problem. Tattoos don't make a good cop or a bad cop.
So you're saying any tattoos anywhere are fine?
I'm not worried about that.
Okay,
Listen, I
so
think
you're
the
okay with
fire-
swastika?
I think I'm not okay with the swastika, but we're not dealing with the swastika.
But we need to in advance so that it doesn't come
How
up
do you
later.
know that? You don't know
Because
that.
what the lesson here is, according to him and his lawyer and all sides and everyone here, is that
Listen.
there were no rules beforehand.
Listen.
So saying set the rules beforehand.
Yeah, but you want to set the rules based on. But what's in front of you? What's in front of you is
Babs,
we
right?
don't like this guy's tattoos.
Right, so let's
Okay.
not have that
Okay,
be in front
yeah,
of us.
we-
Let's have it be what should the rules be moving forward.
Right.
I don't think tattoos in and of themselves are a bad thing. But there are certain tattoos that we
Okay,
know
that's what I'm
will
asking.
incite
What will
a
that
certain
be?
kind of feeling.
What will
We
that
know
be?
what they are. If I see
Tell
somebody
me.
coming at me with a KKK tattoo or a white supremacy tattoo or a neo-Nazi tattoo or whatever else.
Okay, that one's the easy one. I'm going to give you a hard one. Everyone in this room, including me, would embrace Black Lives Matter. We love the cause. We love the message. We think it's a humane, nonviolent, all-inclusive message. To certain hardcore white nationalist members of the New Haven Police Department and the community, Black Lives Matters means kill cops. Should we allow a Black Lives Matter tattoo?
I think, do we have Black Lives Matter tattoos on cops right now?
No, we're
Do
asking,
we have any cops
but
that
we're
have
setting a
Black Lives?
policy of what
You know
can,
why
yeah.
we don't have it? Because other cops understand what that means, and so you've not seen it.
But what if you have a
Because
cop
other
who-
cops have not done it.
But you're going to have a
Because if they
Jason
did it,
Bandy
they won't
cop
get
who's
away
going to
with it.
test. He's going to test until there's a rule.
I don't think so.
No, he's
So
absolutely
you're not for
right.
setting
I
rules.
don't. I don't think so.
You're
I don't
all
think
right.
so.
Look, you know, you know when you set rules, when you look out and you say, there's a possibility. Those are the best rules say. Now, those rules can be tweaked as something happened to make it better. But at the end of the day, I mean, we're looking at what's taking place now. We can see where it can go. I mean, they don't come up. I don't think you put up a traffic light. You don't put. I don't think you go to an intersection and don't put up a traffic light when you have like 25 accidents a day. You sit somewhere along the
Clearly,
line.
you
You say,
haven't driven on the boulevard.
you know,
I'm with you on that one.
That's-
Yeah.
Okay, next.
okay. All right, it's budget reasons. But but no, you take proactive measures. You know, exactly. You take proactive measures.
But this is not a proactive
No,
measure.
it's going to be an after the fact measure.
This is a reactionary measure because they don't like this guy.
Right,
Okay,
so we're
so
saying
then take him off the
But
table.
At the heart of this, they don't like this guy.
but Babs-
because
Babs,
if
I'm
this
not on
was
that.
somebody that they liked, they wouldn't be having
But
this
Babs,
conversation.
that's why
But
he's
this is why you
saying.
need the policy, though. This is why you need the hold on. This is why you need the policy, and it is an after the fact policy because, quite frankly, like this guy didn't get all of these tattoos overnight. Like his tattoos,
That's
are
what the
like just like Valencia said.
Yeah.
If
exactly.
if I think it's both. I think two things can be true here. So it could be that there are brass that don't like Bandy and would like to
Right.
see him gone.
It
right?
could be.
Fine.
Right.
But that doesn't change the fact that the issue of tattoos and what an officer
And
is
that's
supposed to
where
look
I'm
like
with the argument.
and why they
his-
have
That's
here's-
where I'm
so,
with the argument.
so how about if the next time they have recruits and young people come through with tattoos because young people wear a lot of tattoos, at least the ones that I've seen. So then we say you can't be on this force even though you have good character
No one's
and
saying that.
sound mind, but because you have tattoos, we can't even consider
Absolutely
you.
nobody's saying
So I'm
that.
sa- well, then what
Absolutely
are you
nobody.
saying?
No,
Because
nobody's
that's-
saying
that's-
no.
Babs,
I'm-
everyone is agreeing on all sides of this argument that there should be set rules.
Right.
Everyone is agreeing you can have tattoos. The question is what goes over the line and what should the policy be? Norma, what were you trying to say?
No,
No facial tattoos.
Remember that they don't like this guy based on the history of how he has been treated. That he was welcomed back after he was fired. I think he's very well connected and he's more than liked. Okay, because
good
how
point.
many of us of our
Got
people
fired and got
that
back.
would have happened that have come back after they got fired?
That's a good point.
I'd like to know.
I know two
and
cops,
people
two
have been
former
gotten
cops.
rid of from the police
Gone.
department
Yep, never
for
came back.
less than
Yep,
this.
and
from less
never
than
came
this.
back.
From less
So
than
let's-
this.
But my point still is, okay, that's fine. But this has happened. We have this
Right.
in front of us. So we start doing these. We start saying tattoos of any manner. We put a policy in place about tattoos, and maybe that should be the thing.
Right,
but I
that's
just
what I'm
think that
asking.
tattoos are not the issue here.
No, but that's not the point. What we're
Over-tattooing.
looking, yeah. Here's what.
So what if some woman comes with her eyebrows tattooed
So let's talk about
on
that.
her face?
So no, we got to think about that, Babs. So what should the policy be? Does anyone here have a policy?
You know what? I think there's many young gentlemen and women that want to become police officers. I think if the policy is in place, then they will regulate their lives accordingly so that they can be New
So what
Haven
should the
Police
policy be?
Department.
Well, I think you get a little slippery slope there because we are a police department that's currently seeking to recruit people from the community who might have certain things in their background. And so, like, you're giving a slippery slope because we're gonna let the person with no tattoos who maybe has a drug history, but we're not gonna let the person who's covered in tattoos but actually might be a really good human. I don't know. Maybe they were a tattoo artist in their former life and decided they wanted to become a police officer.
So what would
I
it
don't
be?
know.
So you cover them up on your
But-
face and neck?
I think it
No, I
depends.
don't think you should cover them.
I think it
So you
depends.
think face tattoos are okay?
I think it depends what the police department is trying to achieve. If you look at it from Tony Reyes's point, his point is that police officers, we have regulations, just like the policy currently is for police officers to be clean shaven, regardless of what other thing is on their face. Like that is our grooming policy. They're a paramilitary organization, so they follow things that make people look uniform. Tattoos, of course, are going to change that. We've already have a policy of allowing people to have visible tattoos below the sleeves. So we all know police officers who you see them in the summertime. You see them all winter with a jacket on. You don't know they have tattoos. Soon as the weather hits, you're like, whoa, I didn't know you had that big, cool tattoo. What's that? But like that's the thing. But the question is a tattoo too far? To Babs's point, do you make exceptions for if somebody had cancer and couldn't grow their eyebrows back, so they got them tattooed on? Like microblading is a thing. And for people who are like me, who have very sparse eyebrows and add a little something extra, like where do you draw the line? That is, I would think face tattoos for just the purposes of
But I
good
think,
fun is
thank you, Norma.
probably not what you
I
want to
think
do.
Norma, I think
but
Norma put it right
that's
on.
just me.
And it might sound like selfish motives because I'm connected to the cosmetics industry, but for cosmetics reasons, yes, get some eyebrows on.
But you don't make that. See, that's I don't like that because that's
I do,
that's
it's
a
cosmetic.
kind of power that people shouldn't have over people's lives. And tattoos do not
But
affect
you know
your
what? If
ability
you
to
try
do
to
your
go for
job.
a banker's
I
job
don't
and you
think
got
my tattoo
tattoos, nobody's gonna
I don't think
hire
my
you.
tattoo impedes me from doing the work that I do.
Yeah,
So
I
I
agree.
And while I
but if you
agree
go
with
to
that,
corporate
as
America with a
as
bunch of
probably
tattoos,
the only person in
Perceive
here
you
with
is very
visible
important.
tattoos,
You keep talking about tattoos. Where are your tattoos?
I have a tattoo on my hand. I have one on my wrist. I have one
Never
on the
noticed
back side
that.
of my arm. I have
Never
one on
even
my
noticed.
lower
They're
back.
Never
tiny.
knew.
They're tiny.
They
They're
are
not
tiny,
visible.
but I'm about to get a very big tattoo that's going to be visible. So there.
Where?
So
It's
then
going to
you
be
got-
on my upper arm.
Oh, so
But hear what I'm saying. Like, listen to what I'm saying, which is that because of the world we live in the very judgmental world that Babs is describing, in a world where face tattoos just quite frankly aren't acceptable, right? Like in most places of businesses, that's not acceptable.
not.
So I have the luxury
Only
of
in the
choosing
New
not
York
to
Police
work
Department.
places where a visible tattoo is going to be. Like I don't want to work somewhere where people are going to be like, "Oh, you can't work here," or "I think less of you because of your visible tattoos."
But
I don't
many
choose to
times
work,
they don't
but some
say
people
it.
can't choose that. Some people really want to work at the police department, and they made a decision. This is different, though. He made this decision after.
Oh, so you can cover up with makeup.
Why?
Yeah,
Why?
right.
But I don't.
I can't cover
I'm not going to
listen,
get it.
Not
that way
you.
covered.
But you, I'm
This
saying
is-
if they want
see,
cops
this-
not to have them on their
I just
face,
think
the
this
face
whole
can-
thing is so because just
So then
a
why
little
is it
while
okay
ago-
for the military to make you cover it up?
I'm not. Listen,
Maybe
I
it's
just
not.
want to know.
But and the police department considers itself a paramilitary, so it's valid.
That's
They
true.
consider
I
themselves a
don't think the
paramilitary
military
organization.
is correct either.
Okay.
I'm with Babs.
I don't think the military is correct in that
Okay.
either. And you know what? And history bears this out. Because listen, there was once upon a time they didn't want black people next to white people because they felt that some kind of way about that. Until the laws changed, until we've accepted other people. Once upon a time, women weren't allowed to be in the military, but they are. Then when black women came in, oh, you can't have cornrows. You must cut your hair. All these other kinds of things. You can't have a perm. You can't wear it naturally. You can't wear it braided. And the policies changed. Now black women can wear cornrows and not sort of not be breaking any military rules. So we have the ability to sort of flesh this out a little bit better and say tattoos are not the problem. The content of character is the problem. Let's have that discussion. We want good cops. However way they show up, we have to respect that. No, I'm not suggesting we should, if somebody with a swastika comes through the door, we know what a swastika is. We don't need remedial history. We don't need a learning on what swastikas are and who the people who put swastikas are. When I go get my next tattoo, you can believe it's not going to be a swastika. Why? Because that's not how I roll. I'm
But
not
you know
in
something?
that mindset. So we have got
But
to
cops
sort of,
are. Some cops are in that
but,
mindset.
But then we have to deal with those
We have a
cops
national
as
problem
they-
that the police forces and the FBI are not investigating white
Paul, that ain't new.
supremacist violence.
That ain't new. Is that new? How is
No.
that new? That's
No.
not new.
But
there's
you are-
cops,
but you
there's
are-
white cops all over the country who don't have a tattoo
See?
and who are card-carrying KK members
I agree with you
and
about all
white
that. I agree
supremacists.
with you
And
going
you
with
think
this,
the
yeah.
tattoo is the only way that we can
No.
identify them?
No, but
That's
the-
the only way that we could weed them out?
Your
Nope.
point is very well taken there. I think the police, and I also, unlike Joe, I don't think they should be a military organization. I think that's a fundamental problem with our police department is that they see
Oh
themselves
no,
as a
I
military
just used
organization.
to. I
You
never.
know,
No.
wait,
I did
He's
not
not
say
saying
that they
that
should
they
be.
should be.
Motto
He's
of the
saying that
police
they are.
officer
That's
to
what they
serve.
model
I
themselves.
never.
Public.
Right. I didn't say that they should be. Not even
He
in the
just said
slightest.
that they
Okay.
model
I'm just saying
themselves
it's
in
as
that.
such. But Babs, like, well, maybe you know
I
this
feel like
guy
we're
could
having
be.
like 5 different conversations.
Maybe this guy should be in a gang unit or something so
But
he
you know
could blend
what?
in. I don't know.
What is the motto
No, he
of
would
the
probably
New
stand
Haven
out 'cause
Police
his tats
Department?
don't
What
match
is
the gang tats,
What is the
so-
motto
I
of
don't
a
know.
police officer?
So that's
to,
not gonna help.
To protect. What is it? The motto of the
Protect and serve, but
Serve
again,
and
to
But you know
Babs'
what?
point, they can do that with
Perception
tattoos.
is everything in life. Perception is everything
It
in
is.
life. And if we are here to protect the community, then the community needs to be able, from just viewing you,
To feel
know that
comfortable.
you're a respectable person.
But to Babs' point, somebody who doesn't have any tattoos could be the most dangerous person to you.
But you.
So that's not a good. I don't think that's a great argument.
That history bears that out already without
Right.
tattoos. So we already know that exists. So what do we want? So let me tell you something. If I get robbed and a tattoo cop show up, do you think I'm gonna refuse to help?
Yeah, I would.
And that's what the
I
firefighter
would.
said. He said,
I'm about
Oh,
to.
I
if your
would.
building's on
I
fire, or
would.
do you want me to
I'd be
wait
like,
for the
"Who
guy
are
who doesn't
you?"
have any tattoos?
If I got robbed and the cop showed up with tattoos, I'm thinking he's down with the robber. He set me up.
Why would you think that?
Because of
What
what
is it
perception.
about tattoos that
why are you
said-
discriminating against people with tattoos?
I know, and
'Cause I
I
don't
just want to
have them.
say I
And
am a
Harry look like a
respectable
thug.
person.
okay.
Oh,
My tattoos do not define me. I'm a respectable person. My
Your
tattoos are
covenant
beautiful.
tattoo.
Beautiful.
They are.
How you
Harry.
know they're beautiful?
To you,
To you, they're beautiful.
Yes, there are people in our comment section who would
And I
not
don't,
agree.
I don't
No.
feel one bit afraid of Harry. I I don't think Harry's in the game.
That's because you know
I don't
Harry.
think Harry's a
That's
white
because you know him.
supremacist.
Oh, that's because you know Harry.
I mean, I don't
That's
like
because
his
you know-
political
I'm-
leanings,
okay,
but
okay.
I'm not afraid.
It's also because she
I
was.
would be
suggesting
honest
that
with
we
you.
should spend more time with Officer Bandy. We should hang out with him. Is that what we're saying?
No, I'm not
So we'll
saying
know
that
his
at all.
story, and
Yeah.
then, so when we see him, we won't be afraid.
'Cause
Maybe
I'll
he'll
tell
be
you
a
right
school
now,
resource officer.
Because I know Harry, I feel comfortable. But if I ever riding down Route 69 and catch a flat and Harry jumped out behind me, I'll probably be checking for my piece. This guy coming to KKK me.
You got to stop stereotyping people, Joe.
I'm sorry.
Because
But-
let me tell you something.
Harry looked like
Let me
he
tell you
just.
something. All the harm that has been done to me in my life has been by people who didn't have tattoos. So I don't understand any
Well,
of
I'm
that.
clunking it
So-
all together. All of them, they all, at least I could see this trouble coming.
But you saw it coming on Pundit Friday, which you're listening to on WNHH-FM, your home for community radio, 103.5 FM, live streamed at newhavenbend.org. Since that was so hot and heavy, I love that discussion. And I had my mind changed at least 4 times.
Yeah, I don't like that.
You guys, I like that.
You know,
Paul
Babs.
gets swayed by the
Yeah.
argument all the time.
No, Babs.
Call that lady Babs at
No,
the
no,
radio station.
yeah, I'm telling you, anybody get in trouble. Babs, you need a law license.
No.
Yes.
Oh, yeah,
You
man.
better not go to war with Paul, because he gets swayed by the argument all the time.
No, I was swayed.
Paul said he is
I
an
would-
open person. He's willing to have his mind changed.
No, I was totally swayed because I had my opinion, and then Babs laid out hers, and then
Yeah.
Markeisha
Babs
added
is,
it.
yeah, they were pretty good
Yeah,
on this
they were
one.
There
really
were like
good.
5 different tracks
I don't like
on
the
that,
way-
though.
Okay,
Like,
let's
there-
talk.
there
Let's
are
talk
so
about
many
something
ways to
easy.
go.
Let's talk about something easy. Something everyone's gonna agree with. Some we don't even care about. Let's just have a very mellow tea conversation.
Oh,
What do you
boy,
folks
this is
think
about to
about
get hype.
Jussie Smollett getting off on faking that attack on him in Chicago?
But if you listen to my show, you know what I said.
What do you say?
I
haven't
say-
seen the
Hollywood
latest.
privilege.
The last
No,
I
no.
saw was that he got all the
All charges were dropped, and all I can say
don't
about
actually
that.
think this is the easy one.
No, this is here's my take on it.
Go for it.
If you, and I said this on my show, if you have any form of power, or if you have any juice, as we say, and you know Jussie Smollett, I hope you lawyering up right now because it's bigger than Nino Brown, baby. I think that boy is in somewhere singing to somebody. That's what I think for that.
Ooh.
I just think the Chicago police department is trash. Just the
No,
other day,
But it
they-
wasn't the police who dropped the charges.
No, it wasn't the police.
Oh, I see.
They
I see.
were,
Yeah.
She's
First of
saying it
all-
was trash for a
I think
proffering
Sam
the
Ross
charges.
Lee made a good point.
They want $130,000, which is what cost to investigate the case.
So,
Yeah,
Babs, you
but-
said he shouldn't have been
I
arrested in
think
the
he needs
first
to
place,
pay it.
Babs? What are you saying, Babs?
let me say this.
It's bigger than Nino Brown, baby.
Let me tell you this.
It's bigger than Nino Brown.
You know,
I don't wanna say it.
prosecutors have a job to do, and they get to decide whether or not a case goes to trial. And if they say they don't believe that they could win a case,
Why
guess
seal
what
the
happens?
case? Why seal it?
But that's the deal that they made.
Yeah,
I
okay.
think the bigger issue for me,
Okay.
whatever.
Somebody
Listen,
above him's going down.
listen.
Somebody above him.
I think that-
somebody above him.
I think Rahm Emanuel, with his misplaced anger,
Mhm.
Because they shot a kid in the back running from a police officer, but he didn't go on TV or
Right.
on all the news
I
cycles
agree with you on all
talking
that.
about that.
I
So
agree with you
before
on
we
all
even
that.
get to Jussie Smollett, before we get there,
Mhm.
there's so many other things that the Chicago Police Department
I agree
has
with
to
you.
account for.
I agree
Just
with
the
you.
other day, they ran into some black folks' home, was having a birthday party,
Mm-hmm.
and tore up the place in the wrong house. Did they
listen,
apologize?
Okay.
No.
And I
My-
totally
so
agree with
I
you on
don't-
all of
I
that.
don't care
I'm
about the
talking about-
Jussie Smollett
Oh.
because so many white people. We
He
got a
just
cat
asked a
running.
question.
Listen, the cat
all
that
I'm
killed
answering.
Trayvon Martin is still running around free.
Right?
Still running around free. There's a whole bunch of white folks running around free who have killed and harmed black people. This one case that everybody gets outraged about is annoying to me. Do I think he's guilty? I don't think he's completely innocent, but I don't care. That's not the point.
Right, I
He's
understand
not
that.
the everyday average black person who is catching it right now, who can't make bail, who can't
I'm not
who can't
questioning
make
that.
phone calls, who can't do all these things. And we wrap our minds around this foolishness. The Chicago PD is trash, and they know it. And they know it. So you know what? They get what they get. Karma knows everybody's address. So they get what they get. So they lost this case. Go investigate all the 50 million other cases that you have to deal with.
hear you.
And
Their
then come
clearance
back.
rate is terrible. They have
I'm not-
the Chicago
forgot
PD has
Ramen
a terrible
Manual.
clearance rate. They
Listen,
don't solve very many
You know,
crimes.
Markeisha, I
did you
forgot
read
Robert
Sam
Daniel was
Russell's
the
post
mayor
on this?
I know.
until I saw him. I was like, he's still the mayor.
So
You
what
didn't know
what
that?
did the Reverend Sam Ross Lee have to say, Joe?
Sam Ross Lee raised a good point, and it was very good. He highlighted, and if you go to his page, he said, "Are we going to, shame on Rahm Emanuel to say that what Jesse Smollett did is when a black person look for help, it's not going to be there, or if a gay person look for help, it's not going to be taken serious." And then he equated to, are we going to judge white people going to college who got into college? All white people.
Or you can do it
Based
closer than
on-
that. You can do it closer than that.
Right.
Think about every backyard Becky who has called the police on some child selling water
Right.
outside.
Right. Exactly.
And nobody's offered to prosecute her. Nobody's offered to fine her.
Backyard Becky?
That's just a blanket name that we call all the white women who call the cops for literally no reason, just because they see black people. And,
And
they're like,
none
I call
of
the cops.
them have been arrested.
None of them have been
None.
arrested.
Did it start with someone named Becky?
No, that's just what
No,
we named
Becky's
them.
just cold for white women.
White women.
Keep up, Paul.
Boy, are you getting educated today?
I am on Pundit Friday on WNHH. Your home for community radio, 103.5 M live stream New England.org. We're gonna go in the home stretch here. I felt,
But to Joe Ugly's point, is like you can keep it closer than that. Like we don't stop answering the phone. The police departments don't stop answering the phone when white women call on their neighbors who's cutting their yard.
Right.
They don't stop coming. They don't stop doing their job. So like the police department, regardless of what happens with the Jesse Smollett, it has nothing to do with the job that they're assigned to do. So they're going to keep answering the phone. If somebody calls in a hate crime today, they're going to investigate the hate crime and not say, oh, that time Jesse Smollett lied to the police department. We're not going to go. That's one thing, like, for the most part that you can say kind of consistently about police. They're like, okay, well, I got to do something. I got to take some information, write a report. I got to do
Just for the
something.
record, I like him because I watch Empire all the time. And I hope he's not the one that they're going to eliminate.
Who's this?
But what was always
Empire.
fascinating
which-
to
which
me,
character?
talking about
Smollett.
Jesse Smollett.
Jesse Smollett?
But to the point of this, like the fact that the Chicago PD has such a bad reputation, the fact that they rushed to this, right? Like
Right.
they didn't have to leak all the information that they leaked on this case
But
and
wait a
rush
minute.
to
Let's
say,
talk about
oh,
the Chicago police. I don't think it's fair to talk about the entire Chicago police
Do you know
because
anything about
we
the
know
Chicago police?
there are good people. They're good cops. I'm not saying all of them, but there still exist.
the
they could be
Chicago
saying the
Police
same thing
Department
about
is not the
the
New Haven Police Department.
That's right. And Norma, there was a Nazi or two at a very nice garden. They didn't use pesticides.
The Chicago Police Department is not the New Haven Police Department. Don't even
People
put them in
that
the same
read about the New
side.
Haven police out there that don't know the New Haven police, they would say the same thing about
But
them.
that's because they're willing.
they
But
wouldn't.
that's because they don't know
No,
anything
they
about New
wouldn't.
Haven, and they'd be willing to blanket statement anything. Now there are
Right.
people here
So
who
are we
might say
saying
some
that
harsh
they're
things
not
about the
good
New
cops
Haven
in
Police
Chicago?
Department.
Are we saying they're no good cops?
I'm saying a lot
I'm
of
saying
them
they
are.
didn't. I'm saying they didn't arrest Jesse Smollett and blow this whole thing up. The
And
good
there is
cops didn't do
there's a
that.
fundamental rot in
The
the
good
Chicago
cops
Police
didn't
Department
do
that does
that.
not exist in New Haven.
Yes.
Right.
Exactly.
And a lot of other places.
Well, we ran
Chicago
it down.
is his own
It's his own
foolishness.
special brand.
Well, I
of
told you that
foolishness.
Jesse was going to be a kind of calm ending, right?
Was it?
No.
It wasn't.
I didn't intend it to be either.
Like, we lost the whole show on that first thing. He is playing the go home music, y'all.
because Markeisha was bringing it home.
No, Babs brought it home this time. You should have
Babs
queued
and
up
Mar-
on her.
Everybody brought it. I think
Man,
the best
this is
pundits in the
crazy.
universe brought it home today. Joe Ugly,
Gee whiz.
Norma Rodriguez-Reyes, Markeisha Ricks, Babs Earls Ivy, and a cameo or two from Harry Droz. In
Harry needs
between
a
working the
wireless mic
levers.
so he can just be like,
Yeah.
or
Thank you
like
for
a
joining us.
headset.
I'm
So
going to
you
be
could
back
just,
in an
like, get in
hour.
there.
I'm going to be back in a few minutes with a special guest coming through New Haven
Is that
who
your
has the
brother?
lowdown
This guy looks just like.
on Jewish veganism.
Ooh.
No, they even wearing the same.
Oh, y'all are about to have a blast. Did he bring snacks?
I think that
Did you bring snacks?
Did he bring snacks?
Excuse me?
Ah.
He did not bring snacks,
What
folks.
is veganism without food?
Then how do you prove this?
All right.
We
Anyway,
need more
thanks.
evidence. Elm City Market is
Yeah,
open.
that's very nice.
Thanks for joining us today
No snacks, I can't
on
help
Pundit Friday. We're going to take it out with the Afro-Semitic Experience performing I Wish I Knew How It Would Feel to Be Free from the group CD, A Plea for Peace. This is Paul Bass inviting you to fly free with us all weekend long at WNHH, New Haven's home for community radio.